Imagine this. You're in junior high school, it's home economics class. Instead of math or history, today you're making pizza. Fresh dough, tomato sauce, cheese, the works. It sounds like the best school day ever. Now, imagine that the same pizza sends 6 students to the hospital. This is a real story that happened in Japan, and the surprising culprit wasn't rotten cheese or expired meat or bad hygiene. It was linguistics. Yes, a vocabulary misunderstanding, and something that quite honestly sounds like one of the most Japan stories you'll ever hear. But before we get started, just a quick reminder that if you're new to the channel and are interested about all things Japan, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel with anyone you think might enjoy it. It helps a lot. Okay, back to the story. Just recently at Honjo Junior High School in Kitakyushu, Fukuoka Prefecture, students in a home economics class, in Japanese that's kateka, were assigned to make pizza from scratch. And when we say from scratch, we mean from scratch. They weren't opening a bag of pre-mixed dough, they were measuring flour, activating yeast, adding water, kneading everything by hand. A very wholesome, very normal home economics classroom activity. In Japan, home economics isn't just optional fun. It's a standard part of the curriculum and is a compulsory subject from 5th grade through the 10th or 11th grades. Students learn practical life skills, cooking, sewing, basic household management. It reflects a broader cultural emphasis on self-sufficiency and group responsibility. So, Pizza Day wasn't just a party, it was also supposed to be a lesson. Everything seemed to be going fine during the cooking. The pizzas baked, they looked good, they smelled good, and then the students ate them. Shortly afterwards, several students began saying they felt sick. We're talking headaches, nausea, physical distress. 6 students were taken to the hospital for examination. Doctors later confirmed that they were suffering from symptoms of excessive sodium intake. Too much salt, way too much salt. Now here's where the story gets interesting, because pizza dough needs salt. Even if you don't want salty tasting pizza, salt is essential in bread making. In Japanese cooking vocabulary, salt is shio. Salt does more than flavor the dough, it regulates yeast fermentation. Without salt, yeast works too quickly. The structure weakens and the crust collapses, so you always add some. But how much is some? The recipe the students followed called for 3 tsumami of salt. Now, what does tsumami mean? The verb tsumamu means to pinch or to pick up with your fingertips. So, mitsu tsumami literally means 3 pinches. That sounds pretty harmless, but here's the twist. The students in charge of making the dough weren't familiar with the tsumami in this cooking context. And Japanese is a language where context really matters. There's another common word, tsumami-gui. It means to nibble or to sneak a bite. It comes from the same root, using your fingers to pick something up, but when people imagine snacking or finger foods, the amount isn't necessarily a delicate little pinch. It can feel bigger. So, investigators later suggested that the students may have interpreted 3 tsumami not as 3 tiny pinches, 3 handfuls of salt. Imagine making pizza dough and just scooping salt like you're salting an icy sidewalk. There's no official number released for how much they added, but it was described as multiple magnitudes higher than intended. And that's how you get hospital-level sodium. Now, to be clear, tsumami is intentionally imprecise. Just like in English, when a recipe says a pinch of salt, no one pulls out a measuring spoon. But here's the key detail. This was middle school. These students probably have way more experience with okashi or snacks than they do have with baking bread. They may never have made dough before, and many kids probably didn't even realize pizza crust contains salt at all. So when a recipe says 3 tsumami, and you've never visualized what this looks like, things can escalate quickly. There's also something very Japanese about this situation. In Japanese education culture, students are often expected to follow instructions carefully and work cooperatively. Group cooking tasks are divided. One group does dough, another sauce, and another the toppings. If the dough team misunderstood the salt measurement, the others may not have questioned it or even noticed it, because if it's written in the recipe, it must be right. And once the dough is mixed, salt isn't exactly easy to remove. You can't unsalt bread. Unlike soup where you might dilute it, dough traps the sodium inside. So the pizzas were baked, they looked normal, they looked delicious, and then they were eaten. But now imagine biting into that. A perfectly normal slice, flavored like the ocean. At some point, someone must have said, "Kore wa shoppai sugiru." This is way too salty. Yep, sounds like the understatement of the year. The students who were hospitalized thankfully fully recovered. There was no lasting damage, just perhaps a lifelong distrust of pizza, which, statistically speaking, is hard to achieve. This incident highlights something really important about the Japanese language. Japanese is full of everyday words that rely heavily on shared cultural understanding. For example, shōshō means a little. Tekiryo means an appropriate amount. These appear constantly in Japanese recipes. But if you're inexperienced, what does a little or appropriate even mean? Cooking often assumes you already know this. And that's true in many cultures, but in Japan, where linguistics nuance is so central, misunderstanding can happen easily if context isn't explained. The Kitakyushu Board of Education later stated that clearer instruction would be given in the future. And honestly, that makes sense, because when you're teaching kids, you can't assume prior knowledge, especially with something as powerful as salt. For reference, the recommended daily sodium intake for children is far, far lower than adults, and consuming an extremely high dose at once can cause acute symptoms, nausea, headaches, even more serious complications if severe. At the end of the day, this story isn't really about failure. It's about how small misunderstandings can snowball into something much bigger. It's about how language can shape action. And it's about how even something as globally beloved as pizza can go spectacularly wrong. So the next time you cook, especially in another language, double check your measurements. If you see tsumami in a Japanese recipe, make sure it really is a pinch. And if you enjoyed this story about one of the saltiest misunderstandings in Japan, let me know what other strange or fascinating Japan news you'd like to hear about next. Because sometimes the most interesting cultural lessons come from something as simple as pizza. And that's a pretty good story. Thanks again for watching, and if you still haven't done it, please like and subscribe for more tidbits from Japan.